Welcome to Everything Life and Real Estate. Let's get started with our hosts, Linda McKissack and Dana Gentry.
The first one is, which one of my favorite is The School of Greatness with Lewis Howes. I think that's how you say his last name. Yeah, Lewis Howes. Howes, Lewis Howes. Anyway, I sent that one to you. I've listened to that like 3 times, but it was the June 7th episode on hack your brain to take immediate action. And it's 90% of high achievers practice these daily habits. And he's got like Tony Robbins on there and a couple other people. I have listened to that so many times because it just like got me a jump start into thinking so much bigger. And sometimes I feel like we get stuck back in these ruts. But that is one that I highly, highly, highly recommend. I don't have my notebook with me here at the lake, but I took like pages of notes on that one. He also had Dean Grazioso on that. But Tony talked about us being like in the winter time right now and probably have another 1.5 to 2 years left of it. And just like how you can pull yourself out. It was really, really, really good. And then another one, I don't know if you've listened to this one yet, but there's 2 parts. Jamie Kern-Lima just released her first ever interview with Oprah. And Linda, oh my gosh, it is so good. I mean, I'm almost done with the part 2, but like it is, you will love it. It'll be good for you.
Wait, where do you listen to that with Oprah? Does she have a podcast?
No, it's on Jamie Kern. I'll send them to you because you can listen to them on the flight.
Okay.
It's Jamie Kern-Lima's podcast, but she interviewed Oprah, and it's 2 parts. It's called Oprah Reveals All. She talks about her weight. She talks about her health. She talks about her faith. She talks about the businesses. Like she drops so many nuggets. I was like,
oh, wow.
I was in the car and I was like, oh my gosh, I got to go back so I can write all this down. But it is, oh my gosh, it's just so good. It's just one of those like, and honestly, one of the biggest things it reminded me, which, you know, most people I think like Oprah, but like her or hate her, like her authenticity. And that's like what we say all the time. But I mean, she's got it. I mean, she's so real and honest about everything. And she kind of just doesn't care, you know, which sometimes comes across in a not great way. But with her in the podcast, especially, it's very good. You will really like it.
That's awesome. I will find that. So one of the things that they talked about, and this was, he started out talking about if you think someone's a cheater, but I think more than anything, he was talking about how do you know, if you want to change someone's behavior, which this kind of matches fierce a little bit.
Yeah.
But he asked being a good listener. And he said, if you ever take any classes on being a good listener, a couple of things are very important. Number one, you have to give them your undivided attention, which honestly is so hard for me because I'm so ADD. But you have to figure out a way to do that. I think Gary used to say he had a little rubber band and he'd pop himself if he started wandering off. And then you have to take notes while they're speaking so that they really feel like they're heard. And you have to provide non-evaluative questions. So not the questions where you can say, well, that was stupid.
Yeah.
It is a question of, oh, you did that? Can you tell me the circumstances of doing that? Mm-hmm. Surrounding why you did that or why you've come to believe that. So I thought that was very interesting. I've never thought about when you're talking with someone, what are the important questions that you ask so that you're not they're not answering things that kind of imply you think they're stupid. Does that make sense?
Yep. And it'd probably help you just get a little bit to like a deeper level with them.
Yeah. And this was all about changing people in your direction. He said, when you let someone talk, it's then going to give you permission for you then to be able to talk. And that does validate what Fierce says too, except you get to tell your part. Well, he says, tell your part, which is what Fierce says. And the reason you do that is because if you don't, then they're going to. And then you ask, you know, what were the circumstances around that? What'd you believe about that? I mean, I thought it was like Fierce, but it was a little more in depth of things to do.
Yep. I like that.
If you've done that, it's their turn. It's their turn by the rule of reciprocity to be open, to listen to you, and to be non-evaluative in searching for the rationale behind. And you get a chance. You get a chance to change them if you'll do that first. But you have to be able to let that person talk, and because sometimes when somebody talks and you want their behavior or something to change, you're just dying to tell them what they should do or how that's stupid or whatever. And so learning to really control yourself so that you don't do that, and you ask questions in such a way that don't imply that.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Yeah.
So if you don't give them a chance to talk too, he says that without that, they're not even going to listen to you, anything you say. You've got to give them a chance to talk and try to understand what was their belief around it, what was the circumstances. Because I think sometimes we don't bother to get the circumstances around stuff with people. And so we just assume we know what they were instead of asking. And there may actually been some circumstances that makes that their decision make sense.
Yeah. Yeah. And kind of goes with what we've always learned and said before, like sometimes the person who talks the most feels the best when they walk away.
Yeah,
and that
so true.
That too. Yeah.
So he tells a story about Ben Franklin having a political rival. God, our government needs to listen to this part.
Yeah.
They didn't like each other, but Ben needed to have his friendship for moving forward with some initiatives. So he asked the guy to lend him a book that he wanted to read. And it was in this guy's library, and the guy didn't say no. So I like the same author that you do. I wonder if you would lend me that book. Lend him the book, and then you give it back to him with a book of your own.
Oh.
And so he asked that guy to lend him a book and gave him a book of his own. And you say, can we schedule a time to talk about these books? And now you've got somebody who's not an enemy, somebody who shares an interest in these topics. And he said it has an impression in this case, it was a man of himself as liking you enough to trust you with one of his valued books. So he changed the whole energy around that.
Yeah.
That was a pretty, now he's got to change his opinion of you based on his behavior. But the longer lasting thing is that you shared books and you started a relationship based on the similarities that you didn't have before.
Well, and
in his telling, they became friends.
I was just going to say that. What a way to build reciprocity. I mean, speaking of, that's a great way.
Yeah. Instead, I think sometimes when we have somebody across the aisle or across the line, we tend to want to just move away from them instead of moving closer. And in this case, he moved in and moved closer and found a common similarities. Yeah.
In Taylor Davis's book, Parable for the Republic, the guy who's going to be on our podcast in a couple of weeks, he talks about that in the book. And he says that that's kind of one of the problems now is that so many people, because it's gotten so bad, have said, like, I'm just like, I can't make a difference. I'm just going to throw my hands up instead of actually trying to like lean in to lean into the other people and say like, okay, how can we use our talents and try to move things forward? So many people are just backing away because they've just thrown their hands up over it all. Yeah, that's interesting. Mm-hmm. So, and I think he's probably coming up in a few weeks, right? Yeah, he is. Yeah, you're going to love him. Awesome. Well, what other great things are you listening to or learning or? Well, so the thing I was going to say for last, I've been doing a lot of research on writing a book. I've had that on my goal list for a long time and I'm really excited about it. And I just signed up to work with brand builders. Oh, good. Yeah. Kind of a little bit of a different thing, but I just got to coach with them. And so I've been doing a ton of research on like book writing right now and who's going with what publishers and like what's their process and all that. And I am learning so much, but I'm kind of pumping the brakes on the book because I really think I've got to get the brand builders. Like I've got to get to the one word. And that's so hard. It's so hard. And I told them that on my first interview with them. I said, I know people who've gone through this and they still can't get to one word. And it's like, is it? And so she said, that's why you need the one-on-one coaching, or whatever. So I've been doing all the homework. I've been working on that, but I'm loving it. I'm loving like just really thinking about that brand and getting down to one word. I'm not there yet, but so I've been doing so much of the book research because, we've had several great people, Jordan Montgomery lately, Graham Cochran, several John Addison, who all have books coming out. Yeah. And they're all, and it's different than the way that it used to be. A lot of them are doing the book hype, if you would, on social media and like they're having back to like book parties but it's interesting to me to see now there's so many different ways to publish a book. I mean, 15 different ways, depending on who you talk to. Mm-hmm. So the good news is I'm documenting all of my research. So I'll have good. Yeah, so I'll have it. So if anybody out there listening is thinking about writing a book, I should probably have all the research you would need. But it is based on, different goals and what you want to use the book for. And, if you are, can you spend money? Because I mean, a lot of it can be expensive, quite frankly.
I think I've spent anywhere from 35 to 50,000 if I went through a regular publisher.
That's about it. Yep.
Yeah. So, okay. So something I was going to tell you about the one word, because we're one of the peoples that struggled with the one word, but I had an aha the other day. And that was this. I truly believe that one of the things that we help people with, the main thing is, how the Robert Kiyosaki has that 4 quadrants.
Yep.
And most of the people that we work with and help are on the left side of the quadrant. Yep. It kind of clicked with me the other day. We help people move from the left side to the right side.
I love that. That's so good.
And it dawned on me, and I'm like, that is exactly, I don't know what the one word for that is, but it gave me more clarity. And I think what happens if you don't have clarity is you don't get to move forward.
Totally agree. And they say that. Yeah.
And part of what I've learned is, even if I don't have clarity right now, it's kind of my clues that I'm not quite ready to do whatever it is I'm trying to do.
Yep.
But it doesn't mean I won't learn a lot from it and I won't be ready later. Right.
Yep, totally.
Things happen when they're supposed to happen. If they happen too soon, they kind of fall short and do that. So, because we went through brand builders last year and I just struggled because we just could not come up with our one word. And then I realized one day when I was talking to one of my team members and we were helping some people, he said, really what we do is we help people move from that left side of the quadrant to the right side with their life. Yeah. Because you don't have freedom of your money, your time, or your relationships until you get on that right side.
Yep. That's so true. Well, I'll be thinking of how you can get that to one word, but that is very, because if you do think about it, I mean, you think of Brene Brown and you think of shame, you think of Dave Ramsey and you think of debt. You do think of these words when you think of these people. And what trips you up is like when they started asking me some probing questions, all the words I was saying was actually the solution. And he was like, no. Like, what is the problem? And I'm like, okay, I understand what you're saying, but like these are, and he's like, no, those are the solutions. And it's like, you have to really, it messes your mind to work backwards.
Who's your coach?
I just got assigned a new coach. I worked with Bob in the beginning, which is Rory's like right-hand guy. And I absolutely loved him. And I was selfishly kind of hoping that he might be my coach, but I don't know if he's coaching. Mine is Catherine Gately.
Okay, good. I heard that we're doing some things. Rory's doing some things with us at KDBS, so that'd be cool.
Yeah. He said that he's excited to start doing some stuff with Keller Williams. So I'm really excited about that. But after the podcast, I had a one-on-one call with Graham Cochran, if you remember, who came on, and his book Rebel, that's going to come out in the summer. And, this was his second book. And he said, honestly, when I wrote my first book, he said, before Rebel, I went through brand builders and he did like the one-on-one coaching that I'm doing. And then you can go to Nashville for a weekend, a couple of different times if you pay extra. And he said, I got so much clarity during all that now I truly know my avatar and my brand. And he said, and that set me up perfectly for the second book. And now Rory even has, you can do a 2-day workshop with them in person. It's another module that you can buy, but it's all about launching your book. Like they do it. Like they're doing John's High Road Leadership and John's next book, The Return on Failure, that's coming out.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. And so he said, so when I talked to Rory, and then Rory kind of got me with Bob and his people, but he said, you really need to get the basics of the brand and like what you stand for first before the book. And he said, then let that kind of roll into that. And it made so much sense. And that was like the third person that had said that. And I kept thinking of what you always say, like, once I've heard something, like, I've heard the exact same thing now, from different ways, multiple times. So I'm really excited. So anyway, I'm very into learning that right now.
One of the things that helped me was when I spent that day with Michael Hyatt and we were on the hot seat, and his daughter, what you did is you sat there and you talked about what it is you do. And, of course they hear the pitches and the passion. And so I came up with that formula. I help blank, do, know, or have blank so that they can blank. Right.
Yep.
And that, when I came up with, I help successful but overworked real estate entrepreneurs understand the power of leverage and passive income so that they can get freedom and margin for what matters most. It just clicked.
Yep.
I mean, it felt right. And I knew it instantly.
Yep. I love it.
But I think every real estate agent should do the same thing.
Totally. Especially.
What is your one word for your clients and for your business
Yep.
that one problem you think you solve the best, and go deep in that?
Yeah. I'm excited. I mean, when you look at brand builders, like even still today, I mean, like Ed Milet is still a client of theirs. Lewis Howes is still a client of theirs. Amy Porterfield, like all the people that we love are still clients with them. And it's cool to see how they've and I love that they come from like a faith-based approach too. So I'm excited, and I'm just deep diving on all of that stuff this week at the lake. So it's given me some downtime to really kind of go through it, and I've been brain dumping like all the thoughts and all the things.
Well, and I think it's a great thing for agents, because understanding your brand helps you understand how to present it to the world. And Joe Polish said in the beginning of this podcast, you can be the greatest at anything in the world, but if you don't have a way to persuade the world that, then it doesn't do you any good.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah.
So I think that works both ways. So great. Well, if you have not hit the subscribe button, please go ahead and do that now. And the greatest compliment you can pay Dana and I is to pass this podcast along to anyone that you think would benefit from these conversations, maybe be a guest on the podcast. If you have a challenge, an opportunity, or a question, be sure and reach out to us at info@everything life and real estate. And Dana, I'll see you next week.
Sounds good. Have a great time on your trip.
Thank you. You too.
Be sure to subscribe for more business strategies and tactics to inspire you to live an abundant real estate life. Don't forget to rate and review so we can bring you the best content. Find this and other valuable information at everythinglifeandrealestate.com.